There was a lot of moments there where I felt pretty powerless, pretty angry. And so that shifted something in my mind. I just remember when it got bad enough and the police kept coming, I finally just remember having this thought like, no, this life is not supposed to be like this. I'm going to go take my life in my own hands and make it better. I'll never be like you.
Lindsey Sizemore, tell me where you're from. Tell me, you do two businesses. One is a side hustle and roofing, and what's your passion? So tell me a little bit about that.
So, I was born in a small town called Anderson, South Carolina.
I know where Anderson is.
Yep, not too far.
It's real close to Easley.
Yep. So I have a twin, so she was born with me. We're only a minute apart, look nothing alike. I have her plus a lot of other sisters. We moved here to Ackworth, Georgia, when I was 6. So life pretty much kind of started here. This is where I was raised. Stayed here throughout high school, and then I moved on to, I guess, what I thought was a bigger, better world.
Where was that? Where was that at?
Well, I left and went down to Atlanta.
Okay.
And I've lived
That's
all over Atlanta. You name it, I've lived there. But today, I work for, so this is what I consider my passion, really. I got involved with the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network. I've been working there for about 4.5 years now. I've had 2 different positions there. Everyone who works at this particular organization is what's called a Georgia Certified Peer Specialist. And basically what that means is we are all people living in recovery. We're just evidence that, hey, recovery exists. We're all in long-term recovery. And so we're able to kind of like bring forth our lived experience with the work that we do. And that work is called peer support therapy. So under the umbrella of the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network, it's basically an organization that helps train people all over the state to get credentials to then work various projects. So today, I'm actually the director of one of those projects. It's federally funded. So it is called the Forensic Peer Mentoring Program.
Man, that's a mouthful.
I know. Forensic Peer Mentoring Program.
Mentoring Program.
You got it. So forensic pretty much means corrections. So what my program does is it's an advanced training. You have to have a couple credentials before you're able to even be eligible for the application. And so basically we train and certify mentors to go back into the prison system. And so we are people in recovery getting these trainings and credentials to go back into the prison systems. We're working with individuals who live with mental health and substance use challenges. A lot of times that's the whole reason why someone's even incarcerated to begin with. So we get the chance to work with them 3 to 18 months before the release date.
Right.
So we're just like, and a lot of people on the inside, we call them returning citizens.
Sure.
And so they've just never seen it.
Do you think you're probably gonna, I don't know if you'll like my views at all. Do you think that should be, do you think somebody that's an addict should be in jail at all? Do you think drugs should be, I guess I'm going there. Do you think drugs should be against the law for usage? Any drug?
Like, that's
Name it.
Very wide.
Name it. Whatever.
So I think that drugs that produce any sort of risk of addiction should definitely, I think that whoever, if it's a doctor prescribing it or something along those lines, there needs to be way more representation of the fact that this is addictive.
Of course.
The whole pain pill epidemic is just absolutely out of control. There could be a lot more poured into educating people on the fact that this is like not a joke.
But there's other countries that are very, very less harsh on drugs, and they don't have the problem that we have.
I don't believe that incarcerating anybody should be in regards to someone who has a mental health or substance use challenge. That is now, I definitely think that public safety is a huge priority in my life. So I'm not saying anything against those who are incarcerated, that they need to be there. But if it's related to mental health or substance use, I'm all about other recovery treatment options.
Sure.
That actually help the person focus on the solution.
100%.
And you're right. There is European programs and all these amazing
Yep.
things that we are learning from. I actually teach a portion of that in my training, and just introducing that into what we look at, as they need to be punished. Like that's not.
Well, here's the thing. So,
helpful.
violent crime is one thing, and then you have drug use, and that person being in prison is not helping them at all. So there needs to be other programs, and just going to jail one time because you're messed up is different from going long term, I think. So if you get pulled over, you're driving, absolutely you go to jail because you're endangering other people's lives.
Right.
But if you're smoking crack at your house, or you're smoking weed at your house, or you're doing cocaine at your house, you're not endangering anybody.
Right.
Except yourself and your health. Mm-hmm. So that person should not go to prison.
They're going to prison if they're endangering something, whether in the community,
right.
their health.
I hear you.
Not their health, other people.
Sure.
But I know people today that are literally doing 20 plus years just because
for drugs.
They had some drugs on them.
It's crazy. It's insane.
I even know people that are in there for trafficking charges. They've had repeat offenses.
Sure.
But a judge has never offered them any sort of treatment option.
It's insane.
Because they look at it like, oh, you're a drug dealer. Yeah. You don't get to have treatment. But a lot of those people.
So we'll talk about the money in a minute, but because that has a lot to do with it. But America has 5% of the world's population and 25% of the prisoners. That's insane. That's crazy.
Georgia's
time.
Got the highest inmate population in the whole country.
So then you get to the money. So you go, okay, well, a pharmaceutical company just got sued and lost for the opioid addictions that was their fault, basically their fault all the way. And they got slapped on the wrist because they made billions and billions and billions. So it doesn't stop them from doing anything, right? So if you go and you catch a DuPont truck backing up to a creek and pouring chemicals into a creek that's, poison in the water, and they go, well, we're going to fine you $100,000 for every time we catch you do that. Well, if it cost $150,000 for them to dispose of those the right way, they might as well break the law and pay the $100,000.
Yeah.
So it's the same. It's the same thing on the opioids and the drug companies. Is it's not enough. Right. It doesn't stop them from doing what they're wanting to do. So in the 90s, cigarettes became illegal to put on air. So you couldn't do a commercial for cigarettes. But when I was an 80s baby, there were commercials about smoking, right? Well, they took those off. Well, you saw what happened in within those 30 years. Smoking went almost disappeared. It's kind of weird to see somebody smoking now. Yeah. But back in the day, it was smoking section or non. You know what I mean? It was 50-50 if you smoked or not. So that helped a lot, and marketing ads and all the things they did, putting the things on the pack of the cigarettes, all those things made people over time go, this is bad for us. This is not good for you. So in Europe, it's the same way with pharmaceutical companies. You can't do a pharmaceutical ad on TV because people that are not doctors are self-prescribing that, and they're going and going, hey, I saw this commercial and I think I really need that because that actor really acted like it was the same thing I'm going through, right? And some of these are very dangerous drugs.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my 2 cents about people getting incarcerated for drugs. I think it's absolutely insane. Yeah. Then you got privatized prisons that get money off people being in prison.
Right.
They're rewarded for that person staying in jail.
Yep.
So I could go on and on, Lindsay.
I know. So we could go on, and that's a huge, huge problem that many people are trying to work towards. It's going to take a whole army and a lot of time and a lot of data,
right. But I love what you do because that's the opposite. You're trying to...
So they're already in there.
Yeah.
So we go in and we bring hope. you should see the look on some of the peers' faces, like when they're like, "Wait, what? You've been here? You wore that same color?
Right.
What do you mean?" And then your life is actually good today, you know. And they're hungry for it, and a lot of times they've never seen anybody, first of all, be empowered and transparent about it, and then provide hope to them. So we're meeting them right where they're at, and just kind of walking with them. It's a completely voluntary program. And so our job is to really just create that relationship of trust. And, you know, I'm a product of this very program that I now direct. So when I speak on this, I'm actually speaking on what it actually did for me too. Having that weekly meeting with a mentor was...
Do you still talk to that mentor?
Oh, yeah.
I bet you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I talk to everybody. I've been back into that same prison multiple times just to see the guards and lieutenants, and I think that's part of it too. Just continue to say, hey, look, you know,
you're in the trenches, man.
There's me, and I'm making it, but there's a lot of us that are making it too. I just want you to see it works.
I want you to explain kind of your story of how you got to there and how you were on the other side, and obviously is why you are doing this passion now, because it helped you out and impacted your life so much. Right. So where did it start? Okay. When did it get bad? And then tell me about the legal problems.
So that's going to be a long story.
I love it. Come on.
So interrupt me at any time. You know, there's so much more to a person than like charges and what's on paper. And it's just, I really preach this all the time. It's all about that story and that background. And then there's another story with that story. And so really to bring it all back, you know, I was, you know, raised in a home that at one point was like picture perfect. Always smile on your face and ready to go, perfect little family. And then some arguing began to start, you know, around my middle school years between my parents. And I remember I was such a daddy's girl, such a daddy's girl. Like, he was my hero. He actually was a singer, artist. He was always on stage. I thought he was a movie star, all that good stuff. And so when the arguing began to happen, you know, Dad traveled a lot for his job. And anyway, this kind of ended up leading to a separation between my parents, and then to a pretty nasty divorce. I was 13 years old, and my dad left. So at 13 years old, I'm viewing this like, you didn't leave my mom, you left me type of thing.
Of course.
And, you know, frankly, that's all I really have the capacity to feel at the time. And so now, coping with this divorce, I was pretty much having no choice but to get to my mom, because that's who I lived with. She was coping with the divorce using drinking alcohol. She was also on a few mental health medications. I knew nothing about mental health at all. And, you know, honestly, again, my teenage mind was, anytime that something was going on, I kind of looked at it like, you just want attention, or you're crazy, that word, you know. That's right. And, so I remember, as we all know, alcoholism can progress and it can get pretty nasty. And so it was a very dysfunctional upbringing. Things got really bad. Lots of it turned into abuse, all kinds of things. And basically, my mom became very suicidal. And there were many nights where, and I won't share every single one or nothing like that, but, you know, she would have a gun in her hand, and a piece of paper in the other hand, and it was her will. And I just remember just going into this protective mode of my sisters and just like feeling very powerless. And
you have a twin sister.
Twin sister.
And then you have a younger sister?
I have a younger sister and an older sister.
Okay.
Yep. But I just remember
girls,
estrogen.
That's what I have in my family.
When my dad left, there was 5 of us. Gosh, you know, all adolescents, close in age, in one house. It was crazy. So anyway, there was a lot of moments there where I felt pretty powerless, pretty angry. And so that shifted something in my mind. I just remember when it got bad enough and the police kept coming, I finally just remember having this thought like, no, you know, this life is not supposed to be like this. I'm going to go take my life in my own hands and make it better. I'll never be like you. Right. You know, and here I am, you know, now I'm 16 and, you know, things are continuing to get bad. We ended up having to leave the house and go live with other people because my mom was trying to get some help and things like that. And I remember...
Were y'all able to stay together, sisters?
So the night that the police came and we had to leave, I just remember officers, and I talked to officers about this today, like how this can be traumatizing to young children. I know I was 16, but still... They came in each one of my sister's bedrooms and they're like, pack a bag, it's time to go. And I remember thinking, what do you mean? Where am I supposed to go? You know? And I'm like, this is my home. And so they just were just rushing us. And so we all thought that we were going to kind of get back together, let this calm down. We actually never, ever lived together again from that night.
No.
So I told you earlier, you know, school was really important to me. So the last thing we wanted was to have school taken from us. And so we were able to, those of us who were still in high school, Erica had just left, but me, Katie, and Lauren were still in high school. So we went and we lived with some friends. We finished off the school. Lauren and I graduated living with other people. But what this did to me emotionally is it kind of like, I loved my best friend. I still love her today, but I kind of felt like a stranger in another person's home.
Of course.
Then the whole idea.
I could see that. Yeah.
You know, and this house, they were like picture perfect, you know, like dinner at 6 o'clock every night. And I'm just like, what is going on? So, you know, then the whole idea of what family and home is supposed to be was pretty much destroyed in my book. And so basically what that did is I hated people to feel sorry for me. So I developed a lot of pride. I was slowly but surely turned into a party girl. You know, I was like, well, that took a lot from my life. I'm going to go, you know, make myself happy and do whatever I want. And I was very careless. And
you're graduated at this point. You're 18 now.
Yeah. Well, and so I was very, like, even up at 16 to 18, I mean, there was an OD involved. There was a pretty nearly fatal car accident involved. I mean, I was asking for it.
Sure.
But, you know,
drugs. Is this drinking mostly, or is this pills? Is this coke?
Anything I could get my hands on.
Okay.
I had done just about every drug there was before I even graduated high school.
Yeah.
Every single one. And, you know, I was just trying to feel better. I was trying to fill some hole. And, you know, drugs worked. They changed the way I felt. And so I didn't really see any consequences. Yes, I got in this car wreck and I thought that that was going to be my turning point. And I laugh about that now. But it really did feel like the turning point at that time. But that happened 3 days before graduation. So I left high school with a bang and moved to Atlanta. And the partying continued. It actually continued.
Where did you work when you moved to Atlanta?
So I was actually really into the gym business. So I sold gym memberships. I was also a personal trainer at the time. And I had also, let me note this, I worked multiple jobs since I was 14 years old.
Sure.
Always working, always wanted to make money, you know, bought my own car, bought multiple cars. It's just in high school.
You probably also wanted that extra money because you didn't have, you didn't have somebody giving you money. The parents weren't there to do that.
Exactly.
So yeah, I get that too, yeah.
So, but yeah, so I was doing the gym stuff, but then I was introduced to Tongue and Groove nightclub. It's a dance nightclub.
I know what Tongue and Groove is.
Yep. So I was 18 years old. I started working. I was like the little check off the guest list girl out front.
Sure.
Then I moved to the coat check girl, and then I slowly but surely was working as a server, bottle service.
I hung out at the old Tongue and Groove.
That's the one I worked at.
The one over in Buckhead and Far Road?
Yep. That's the one I worked at. And so,
what year was this?
So I started working there right out of high school. So I graduated in 06. So
was that old Tongue and Groove still there in 06?
It was there in 06, 07, and they changed
by
over
Metropolitan
in 08.
Pizza and okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm part of
I
the
lived right there.
OG.
I lived in Buckhead for 6 years. I lived off Far Road.
Where all the little clubs were.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So
now it's destroyed.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, I worked there, and that pretty much introduced me to like next level partying. Pretty much. At first, it was exciting. Then next thing you know, years are going by. I worked there for 5 years, and you know, I just remember going in and out of phases. You know, you have the people that go to the clubs and have fun, and then you have the people that
live at the club,
that live there, and they do the same thing every single night, and they, you know, it's just ridiculous. But then you have the people that work there, and so then we're all money hungry. We're all just, you know, doing whatever we have to do to make as much money as possible.
It's a wild life too, because restaurants are it can be a double-edged sword, because you can make really good money, and the hours are insane. You know, you're going there and you're getting off at 2 or 3 in the morning. You're like, hey, I'm not done because I'm still up.
Right.
Where's the club now? So you got to back street, or you got to
2 or 3. It's more like 5.
That's right.
6.
Right, but you're getting off.
Home.
You're getting off, and then you're going to do a little partying, and then you're.
And then what's even more sad is I would go straight from when I got off to go back to the gym and be a personal trainer to clients that were the 5 a.m. crew before they went to like
Smell
work.
like booze too.
Glitter on my skin.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? I felt like such a fraud. But anyway, that was my little gig for a while, and I just remember getting into harder and harder drugs just to try to stay up and just to try to.
And these are prescription drugs. These are opioids. This
That
is
came
meth.
eventually.
This is
but
meth.
First, it was like the cocaine, the uppers turned
Sure.
to meth. Cocaine didn't do the job anymore.
Yep.
And then you just get super burnt out. So you're just trying to just feel awake just to get through the night. And you hate it, but then you're just doing it just to get through the night. So you don't really think anything's going on too bad psychologically. But I was a vampire. You never saw me out during the day.
Right, but it was the
Period.
lifestyle too. You weren't the only one doing it.
No.
So.
So those drugs came in. That was like a daily thing. And then I was introduced to someone who became my boyfriend, who was also very, at first it seems okay, but then it turned into a pretty toxic situation, primarily because of drugs. And then the prescription pills were introduced,
Okay.
And it's just as simple as that. Like at first it didn't seem, too crazy, and it was just a method to honestly make money. It was pretty scary how we got into that pretty quickly. This was before that huge 6-city sting operation that hit all the cities. I don't know if you remember, this was in 2011. And they hit 6 cities at the same time. They busted all the pill mills. 90% of oxycodone was coming out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So I was actually a part of that sort. I didn't get
That
caught,
ring, yeah.
but I was involved with that. And it was just a way to make money. But I had also developed a pretty severe addiction to it. Which I didn't really realize how severe until that sting operation happened. And then all of a sudden I couldn't get what I used to be able to get.
Right.
And then you're just
fiend
like,
for
wow.
it.
So that was pretty much...
So Roxy's, Oxys, those,
yep.
yeah, those. Okay, yeah.
I mean, you're getting thousands of pills, and you're coming back, and you'll do them here and there. I would go to work, and, I would seem fine. My numbers would be accurate. My sales would be high.
Sure.
But when you look at me, when you would look at my eyes, just completely faded, just dead, not even there. In fact, when they let me go, it was due to these pills. I'll never forget it. I was like, I'm so loyal to this place, 5 years in, this is my identity. But I remember the manager telling me on the phone, he's like, I quote this, he's like, your enthusiasm has diminished. That's the nicest way he could have put it.
That's a nice way to do it. Though.
Okay, but I didn't understand what he meant because, I didn't even want to be high. I was doing these pills just to
You're a
feel
zombie.
normal.
Yeah.
But I have some pretty crazy color eyes anyway, so I can't imagine to not have a pupil and not really be, there. Even though I was there, it was like I was just not even alive. But anyway, so that was an awful prison I had created for myself.
What year is this?
So I got
the pill mill bust and the 6-city bust. What year was that?
That was early 2011.
Okay.
I got let go from Tongue and Groove in November 2010. But the operation, all that stuff was still kind of going on.
Okay.
And so anyway, that came to a screeching halt. And shortly after that, I ended up, getting evicted from my home. All these things happened so quickly.
You're still with your boyfriend?
No. So he...
no, not right now. Are you still with him at this present moment in the story?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah,
yes. I sold my soul to this person.
Right, okay.
And,
So y'all got evicted?
So he got in trouble on the premises, and so it drew attention to the apartment. This is a nice apartment in Buckhead, They don't like it when police come and there's attention.
They do not.
And then there's suspect, selling drugs, stuff like that. And so they found a way to send me a letter of eviction. And, he was in and out. There was many weeks where I didn't know where he was. Were we together? Did we live together? Yeah, but I had no idea where he was sometimes. So anyway, I ended up getting evicted. The car got repossessed. All these things happened. So within months.
Yeah.
And so with no work and then being fully addicted to these pain pills and not having them, there were times where, heroin came into play. And it was pretty scary.
Right.
I was living in extended stay hotels.
Did you snort the heroin? Did you shoot it?
I snorted it. And then I remember thinking I was going one time to to go get a Roxy from somewhere. But when I got there, the guy said that he didn't have it. And he's like, well, we have this, and this is the only way to do it. So I actually shot heroin one time in my life. And that's not very common. Most people, like, do it more than once.
It's not.
I'm so grateful to God that, like, you know, it was a one-time thing. But, yeah, it did happen. And I think I just got too high, and it scared you? Scared me too
We're going to
bad.
break right there.
There was a bunch of knocking on the door, beating on the door. I look out the window. It was one of those hotels where you go out the door and you're outside already.
Sure.
Which I refuse to ever stay in one of those to this day.
Yeah.
So I look out the window. It's 5 grown men in street clothes. They have jeans, white T-shirts, cross necklaces, but they have guns. And they're saying they're the police. So I'm like, you guys are not the police. You do not look like the police. What is going on?